Hello guys, welcome back to another video on Hackintosh, running macOS on a Windows PC. This might be the last video I'll make on Opencore Hackintosh, maybe. And this should be the ultimate guide you ever need. I'll cover every single step and link to the necessary resources. I've made over 20 videos on Hackintosh within the last 3 years, from macOS Catalina all the way up to macOS Tahoe. I also made a blog where you can get almost all files you ever need to run Hackintosh and so much more. In this video, I'm going to take it slow and walk through all the steps required to run any version of macOS on your Windows PC, so make sure to watch till the end. If you love this video, you can like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment. Now let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is to check the processor we are using. Your processor and your graphics unit is very important for this installation. So open Task Manager by holding Ctrl+Shift+Escape. Now go to Performance, and under Performance click on your CPU, and you should see your CPU name here. In my case, I'm using AMD Ryzen 5 2400G, and this has an iGPU RX Vega 11 graphics. I don't have a dedicated graphics card on this PC, but in your case you might have a dedicated graphics. Now there are lots of graphics cards that are supported for Opencore Hackintosh, and there are a couple others that are not supported as well. I'll leave the link in the video description so you can check if your graphics card is supported or not supported. Now if your graphics card is supported, then you should be able to proceed with this installation. It would install fine. If your graphics card is not compatible, you can also use your iGPU if you have a compatible iGPU. For Intel, if you're using anything up to 10th gen, your iGPU is supported. And for AMD, if you are using RX Vega card, your iGPU is supported. For dedicated graphics card, if you're using an AMD RX 470, 580, 5700, 6700, up to 6950 XT, your card is supported. But anything above 6950 XT, it is not supported. For AMD, the support is quite limited. So if you're running a 30 series, 40 series, or 50 series card, your graphics card is not supported, and your best bet would be using your integrated graphics card. In this case, I am using AMD CPU, and I'm also going to be using the integrated graphics RX Vega 11, which is supported. Check the video description to see list of graphics cards that are supported and not supported in order to know if your hardware is compatible. Now we can proceed with the installation. So here are the requirements. First, we need Balena Etcher, which we are going to use to create a bootable macOS. Next, we need Minitool Partition Wizard. We need GenSMBIOS. We need Propertree. We need Explorer++. We need macOS Tahoe installer file. Now you could literally use any version you want to install. It could be Sonoma, Sequoia, Ventura, or even older versions like Mojave. So you can go with whichever you prefer. I'll also leave the link to the installation files in the video description so you can pick whichever you want. We also need Opencore EFI file. We need Opencore Configurator. And lastly, we need a 32 gig flash drive. Now if you have anything more than 32 gig, you should be fine, but the minimum is 32 gig. Now let's head to our browser and download these files. So the first thing we need to download is Balena Etcher, so let's search for it. And then click on the link to Balena Etcher website and download Etcher. Remember, the links to everything mentioned in this video will be provided in the video description. So we are going to download Etcher for Windows, and then next we are going to download Minitool Partition Wizard. Download Partition Wizard, and then we go with the free edition. Next, we are going to download GenSMBIOS from GitHub. So just search for GenSMBIOS. Head to this page on GitHub, and then we are going to click on Code and download zip. Next, we are also going to download Propertree. Head to GitHub as well, Code, and download zip. Next, we are going to download Explorer++. Head to the website and download 64-bit Explorer++. Next, we are also going to download macOS Tahoe installer file, or whichever version you want. So for that, we're going to head to eTechBox, and here I'm just going to search for installation file. I'll leave the direct link in the video description where you can get any of them, so just click on it. And here you can see for Tahoe, Sequoia, Sonoma, and the rest of them. So let's download for Tahoe, and you can see the file size is around 18.6 gig, so you can just download from here. I already have this file downloaded, so I'm just going to skip this download process again. Next, we also need Opencore EFI. Now let's head back to eTechBox homepage. Now let's search for Prebuilt, and then open Prebuilt Opencore Hackintosh EFI for laptop and desktop. Now the link is also in the video description. There are 3 ways you can get EFI for your system. 1, you can use Prebuilt EFI from eTechBox. So if you head here, you should see EFI based on your hardware. I am using AMD CPU, so my EFI is this: desktop AMD, Bulldozer, Jaguar, Ryzen, and Threadripper. My processor is a Ryzen processor, so I have to download this. Now if you're using a Haswell 4th gen Intel CPU, you would download this. If you're using 6th gen, you would download this, depending on the generation of your processor, all the way down to 14th gen and then Core Ultra. So select the one that matches with your hardware. All those using AMD are just going to download the same, right? So now let's click on download, since I am using an AMD processor, and then we download it. The second method would be to get a custom EFI from us, and to do that, on eTechBox website you can click on custom EFI, and then you can specify your name, your email address, and your CPU specs. Once you do that, we are going to build a custom EFI based on your hardware and send to you. So you can either use a Prebuilt EFI, get a custom EFI, or finally build the EFI yourself. I made a video guide on how to build your EFI from scratch, and I'm going to link that in the video description as well. So you can either use a Prebuilt EFI, request for a custom EFI, or build it yourself. And let's also download Opencore Configurator. So I'm just going to search for Opencore Configurator, eTechBox, and click on the link here to Opencore Configurator, and then we'll download. I believe we have all the files we need downloaded. Let's check them out. Then we can close our browser and then open our download folder. So this is Opencore Configurator. This is our EFI folder. This is Explorer++. This is Propertree. This is GenSMBIOS. This is Balena Etcher. This is Minitool Partition Wizard, and this is our macOS Tahoe installation file. So the first thing we're going to do is running Balena Etcher. So let's double click to run. Now click on Flash from File. Locate your download folder and then select our macOS Tahoe installation file around, you can see 19.5 gig. Open. And now we are going to select target. This is where you connect your flash drive. So let's do that. Now select the flash drive and then click on select, and then we click on flash. Now this is going to make our flash drive a bootable macOS drive, and then we can continue with running the EFI. So let's head back to our download folder and proceed with the next steps. Next, we are going to extract our EFI folder. So let's extract our Prebuilt EFI. So we can delete the zip EFI. Now if you open EFI, we can see macOS X, which isn't necessary. You can just delete that. And then this is our main EFI folder. If we open it, you can see OC and boot. Let's open OC. Inside OC, you would see config.plist, which is our configuration file for Opencore. Inside drivers, you would see the drivers needed. Open Canopy helps with GUI for macOS boot. Reset NVRAM also helps to reset the NVRAM entry. So all of these have separate functions and they are all needed. ACPI also contains custom SSDT patch. Under resources, this contains the graphics user interface. You can see the theme here, Accidentera. And Kext is basically your drivers, and these contains different drivers. Now we're using the Prebuilt EFI, so everything is not made with our hardware in mind. So if you need a custom EFI, you can request for one, or you can just build it yourself with the link in the video description. So there may be some Kext here that we don't really need for our hardware. For example, Lucy RTL 8125 Ethernet Kext. Our hardware might require something different if we are not using Realtek Ethernet. I also made a video guide on Wi-Fi patch, Bluetooth patch, Ethernet patch, USB mapping, and so much more. This comes after the installation, so after installing you can patch these things by using the links in the video description. Now let's head back. Copy the EFI folder to the main download folder. Okay. Now let's extract Propertree in order to access our EFI configuration. Extract all. Now we can delete the Propertree zip. Open Propertree folder. Open. Now let's run Propertree Windows batch file. Double click on it. Run. Here we're going to click on File, Open, and then locate your download folder. Open your EFI folder. Open OC, and then select your config.plist file. So once it opens, you're going to see different configurations from ACPI to booter, device properties, kernel, MISC, NVRAM, platform info, UEFI. Platform info basically contains the hardware info. So in this case, we are mirroring Mac Pro 7.1, and that is what you can see here. We're going to adjust that later as well. Now let's go to kernel. Under kernel, we are going to minimize all of this and go to patch, which is where we are. Now this particular section is for those using AMD processors. If you're using an Intel CPU, then you don't need to do this. For AMD CPUs, you have to specify how many cores your processor has, since we are using the same EFI for all AMD processor. So now if we go to Task Manager again, and under performance, go to CPU, you can see my processor has 4 cores and 8 threads. So the processor core count is 4. So let's close this. For the patch, under section 1, you're going to see force CPU ID core per package to constant. Now we are going to change this value here under replace. You can see B808. 08 basically means 8 cores. So we're going to replace B808 to B804. Hit enter. So this is B804 and then 00000000. That is for number 0. And then for number 1, we also have CPU ID core per package. Replace this section as well. Replace BA04. And then for number 2 as well, the same comment. So we're going to replace BA04. And then for number 3, same thing, 04. I believe that is all. Let's check number 4. Number 4 is something else. So we needed to adjust 0, 1, 2, 3 by updating our core count. This is for AMD processors only. If you are using Intel CPU, you need to skip this step. Now after doing that, we can click on File and Save. One more thing for those using Vega graphics. If you're using a graphics card, a supported graphics card like RX 5700, 6700, 6800 XT and the rest of them, then you need to skip this step. But if you're using an iGPU like me, I am using the Vega 11, then you have to perform this step. Even if you're not using Vega 11 but you're using AMD Vega card, then you have to do this step. And what we're going to do is basically head back to our download folder, open EFI, OC, Kext. Now if you're using AMD Vega, then you don't need whatever green. It wouldn't work since this is AMD iGPU. If you're using Intel, then this is definitely fine. Also, if you're using a graphics card, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to delete it. But since we're using AMD iGPU, let's delete. And as a replacement for whatever green, we need NootedRed Kext. I'm going to provide the link for this software in the video description as well. So let's search for NootedRed Kext. And you can see from Chef Keys, we have NootedRed. Click on the latest release down here, and then we can download the latest release of NootedRed. This is only for AMD Vega iGPU. So if you're using a graphics card that is supported, or you're using an Intel CPU with iGPU, then you don't need to do this. There is also a guide I made for patching Intel iGPU, which I'm going to provide in the video description as well. So now let's extract NootedRed. Now inside the extracted folder, you can see NootedRed.kext, which is what we need. So let's just copy it and then head back to our EFI folder, OC, Kext, and we can paste it there. Head back to our download folder. Now after pasting it, under Propertree here, we need to specify every single file in our Kext. So if you delete a file or you add a new file, you have to update the configuration file, and it is quite easy to do that. So what you need to do is click on File and then click on OC Snapshot, and then just click on Select Folder. What this is going to do is it is going to take current snapshot of the EFI folder and add any new file we added. So if I go down to kernel, under add, you should see NootedRed, and whatever green will no longer be there. So if we just continue dropping down, you can see NootedRed has been added and enabled as well. That is because we did OC snapshot. After that, we can click on File and Save. We can close this, head back to our download folder. The next thing you would want to do is to generate a unique serial for your machine, so you can log into iCloud and use all Apple services. And to do that, we need to extract GenSMBIOS. So we can basically delete the zip files we no longer need. We've extracted GenSMBIOS, so we can delete. We can also delete NootedRed. So let's delete both of them. Now open GenSMBIOS, master, open, and then let's run GenSMBIOS Windows batch file. Double click on it to run. Now the first thing we're going to do is to install and update Mac serial, and to do that, select one and hit enter. Hit enter to go back. Next, we are going to select config plist, so enter 2 and then hit enter. Now let's open our download folder, open the EFI folder, open OC, and then we're going to drag config plist and then just drop it there. So you can see this is the location of our config plist. Hit enter. Next, we're going to select 3 to generate SMBIOS. Now the SMBIOS you're going to generate depends on your hardware. If you're using AMD CPU with a compatible AMD GPU or iGPU, then we can use Mac Pro 7,1. If you're using an Intel CPU with a compatible AMD GPU, then you can also use Mac Pro 7,1. If you're running this on an Intel CPU and an iGPU and you don't have a supported AMD GPU, then you would have to use a different serial number. I'll also provide the link to selecting SMBIOS in the video description, so you can pick which one is best for your hardware. but in most cases you would be using Mac Pro 7.1 if you're using a supported GPU. So let's hit enter, and it should generate serial and board ID for our installation. Head back, and then we can quit. Now we can delete GenSMBIOS, we can delete NootedRed, we can also delete Propertree. We wouldn't need it for now. The next thing we are supposed to do is to copy our EFI, which we've already worked on, and then paste it in our flash drive in the EFI partition. But Balena Etcher is still running, so we have to allow this process complete, and then we can proceed to do that. And the process with Balena Etcher is complete. Now we can close Balena Etcher, head back to our download folder, and install Minitool Partition Wizard. Continue, and then we are going to go with the free edition. Next. So the reason we are installing Minitool Partition Wizard is to rename our EFI partition on our flash drive. By default, you wouldn't be able to do that using the tool that comes with Windows, which is Disk Management tool. So if you open this management tool, you can see the EFI partition on our flash drive. If you try to rename it or even change the label, we can't do that. It is grayed out. So that is why we use Minitool Partition Wizard for this. So on Minitool Partition Wizard, you can see disk 1 is our main drive, 120 gig SSD, and disk 2 right here is our flash drive. And this location order contains macOS. This EFI is our EFI partition, which we are going to use. So right click and then change letter. Now we can assign a new letter to it. We can just call it X. Okay, and then click on apply. Yes. Okay, now I would also right click on the unallocated partition and create a new partition. Yes, and this we could name whatever we want. Let's just say OCC, and then just okay, and then also apply that. Yes. Okay, and we can close Minitool Partition Wizard. Next, we are going to extract Explorer++. So let's extract. And then this is the extracted folder. Now right click on Explorer++ application and run as administrator. Make sure to run as admin, else you won't be able to copy and paste the file. Now you can see we have OCC, which should be empty, and we have EFI, which is basically the EFI partition on our flash drive where we need to copy the EFI to. So let's open that EFI partition and delete whatever we have there, if there is anything there, but it's currently empty, so we can just continue. So now locate your download folder and copy the EFI we've been working on. Copy, locate the EFI partition which we recently assigned a letter to, and then paste it there. Now we can close Explorer++, head back to our download folder. We can delete Explorer++, Balena Etcher, Minitool Partition Wizard. Now we have to copy OCC, which is Opencore Configurator, from our download folder, locate this PC, and then paste it in the OCC partition we created in Minitool Partition Wizard. We're going to use it after the installation. So we are done with this initial setup. One last thing to do is to confirm the location you want to install macOS. If you have multiple drives on your PC and you want to install macOS on one drive and run Windows on another drive, then you can do that. But if you have just one single drive and you want to partition both macOS and Windows, you can also do that as well. So I'm going to guide you on how to do that. Now let's search for disk management and then click on create and format hard disk partitions. So here we can see all the drives on this PC. In my case, I have just two disks. Disk 0 is my main drive, 120 gig, disk 1 is my flash drive. Now I would recommend at least 70 GB for macOS. You can partition your main drive and run both Windows and Mac, but in my case my main drive is too tiny, so I'm just going to get rid of Windows and install just macOS. But if your drive is enough, maybe you have 1 TB, 512 gig, or just 256 gig, you can right click and then shrink volume. Now the volume you want to shrink is the volume where you would install macOS, so anything above 70 gig should be fine. In my case I don't even have up to 70 gig, so I'm not going to do that. But if you want to, you can just shrink, and that is where you would install macOS. But in my case I'm just going to replace Windows entirely from my drive and run just macOS. So whichever you want to do is totally fine. If you want to install it on another drive, then just erase the drive from here and take note of it, so when you're installing it you know the name of your drive. Now we can close this, restart our PC, boot into our BIOS, and then begin the installation. So let's restart. Hold F9, F8 or F12 to show boot options. It may be different depending on your PC. Now let's go to BIOS and then go to Advanced Settings, PCIe PCI subsystem. Here we have to make sure resize bar support is enabled, same with 4G memory, and then we can head back. Also go to USB configuration and make sure XHCI and legacy USB support is enabled. Now let's go back to integrated peripherals. Make sure SATA mode is set to AHCI, else it won't recognize your drive. Next we're going to go to Windows OS config. This is where we disable secure boot, so make sure secure boot is disabled. Now the locations of these settings may be different depending on the motherboard you're using, but just search for it if you can't find it and make these adjustments exactly as sent. Now we can save changes and reboot. Now let's open our boot options again. Here we are going to select our USB drive, which is the first one, partition 1, and then we reset NVRAM first. So reset NVRAM. It's going to restart. Now we're going to select Opencore right there. So let's select Opencore, and then we can begin the installation. Now select the language for the installation and continue. Next, go to disk utility and continue. Here we are going to select the drive where we want to erase and install macOS. You should be able to see your drive there or the partition you want to install macOS. From here we can click on erase. In my case I'm erasing my 120 gig which was previously running Windows. We can give it whatever name we want. I'm just going to call it macOS. Now set the format to APFS, that is the format macOS recognizes, and then we can erase. Now click on done and close this window. Now click on install macOS Tahoe, continue. Continue again. Agree to the terms. Select the drive, in this case it is our macOS drive we erased, and continue, and it should begin installing. It may restart severally while installing, but you just have to wait. About 45 minutes later and the process is complete. Now we can set up based on our personal preference. So select your country and region and continue. Set up your user account with your username, full name and password. Here you can sign into Apple if you want, it would work just fine, but I'm just going to skip this for now. agree to the terms and continue, and just set up everything else based on what you want. Select between the light and the dark mode, and we are done with the setup. So basically, this is how to install any version of macOS on your Windows PC. Now let's get started. And you can see everything is working fine. Graphics acceleration perfectly working fine. Now we have to move the EFI from our flash drive to our main drive so we can boot into our macOS computer without having to connect the flash drive every time. Now let's open Opencore Configurator Partition on our desktop. You can see OCC right there. So let's open it and then copy Opencore Configurator from the partition to our desktop. Close. Now let's extract it, and then we can run Opencore Configurator. So double click to run, click on done, and then go to system settings. We have to grant permission to run, so go to system settings and then go to privacy and security. Now scroll down and you would see a prompt to open anyway for Opencore Configurator. Let's open and then open anyway. Enter your password to confirm. Now Opencore Configurator is now running. Let's close this window and then look at the top right. You should see Opencore Configurator icon. Here we're going to mount the partition on both our flash drive and our main drive. So let's mount both partitions. The first one, SanDisk, is our flash drive and it contains our EFI, and the second one is showing an SSD, which is our main drive. So let's mount as well. Now close this window again. Now let's head back to Opencore Configurator and then open partition for both the flash drive and main drive. This is the flash drive, and if you open it you will see boot and OC, which contains Opencore boot files. Open on our main drive as well, and Windows EFI is currently there. Now we can delete the EFI on our main drive completely and then copy the EFI from our flash drive to our main drive, or we can copy boot and OC from our flash drive to our main drive. This way we would have both Windows and macOS if we do it this way. There is Windows, there is macOS, EFI all in the same folder. But if you just want to run just macOS and get rid of Windows entirely after the installation, or if you no longer have Windows, we can delete entirely the EFI in our main drive and copy the complete EFI from our flash drive to our main drive, which is what I'm going to do since I no longer have Windows. So I'm going to move to trash, and then from here we can copy the EFI from our flash drive, which contains macOS, paste. And it's as easy as that. Now we can close our Finder, eject our USB flash drive, restart our PC without the USB flash drive, and we should be able to boot into macOS. If you watched till this moment and this video was helpful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notification. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.